Do you keep choosing the same wrong person, just with a different face? Do you sabotage good relationships? Or maybe you just can't trust anyone? You might think it's bad luck or poor judgment, but it's neither. It's your childhood trauma replaying in your adult relationships, and you might not even see it happening. Your brain learned what love looks like long before you were old enough to choose. Whatever your earliest relationships taught you about connection, safety, and worthiness became the blueprint your brain uses for every relationship that follows. This isn't a conscious choice. It's an unconscious program running in the background while you think you're making free decisions. Let's break down the first pattern. If love was conditional in your childhood, you likely become a people pleaser in your relationships. You learned that your worth depends on your performance. So you overfunction, you overcompensate, and you exhaust yourself trying to earn a love that should be given freely. You're not just being kind. You're reenacting a childhood survival strategy, trying to be good enough to avoid being abandoned. But you can never be good enough, because the problem was never you. Here's the second pattern. If you experience neglect, you'll probably gravitate toward emotionally unavailable people. Your nervous system recognizes emotional distance as familiar and safe. An available, loving person might feel wrong, too intense, or even suffocating. But an unavailable person feels like home. You're not actually attracted to them. You're attracted to a familiar wound. Your brain is trying to resolve your childhood neglect by finally making that unavailable person choose you. It tests a painful cycle that never works because you're trying to heal the past by repeating it. Third, if you grew up witnessing chaos or abuse, you might confuse intensity with intimacy. Calm, stable relationships can feel boring. You might find yourself needing drama, fighting, making up, and emotional roller coasters. It's not because you're toxic. It's because your nervous system was trained in chaos. Peace feels unsettling, like something is wrong, and your body is just waiting for the other shoe to drop. So, you might unconsciously create the very chaos you're expecting. You'd rather create the crisis yourself than be surprised by it. The fourth pattern. If you were parentified as a child, forced to be the adult, you now choose partners who need fixing. You re-attracted to broken people because taking care of others is the only form of connection you really know. You feel valued when you're needed and worthless when you're not. So you pick partners who will always need you, and then you resent them for being dependent. You've created the very dynamic you're complaining about because your brain confused caretaking with love. Pattern 5. If you experienced abandonment, you become hypervigilant about rejection. You're constantly scanning for signs that someone is about to leave, even before they thought about it. You interpret neutral behavior as them distancing themselves. You panic at the normal ups and downs of a relationship. Then you either cling desperately or you leave first to avoid being left. Both of these responses ultimately push people away. You are creating the abandonment you're so terrified of. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy born from a childhood wound. The sixth pattern. If you learn that your needs don't matter, you become invisible in your relationships. You don't ask for what you need. You don't express your true feelings. You make yourself as small as possible, hoping that will be enough to not be rejected. Then you resent your partner for not knowing what you never told them. You're secretly testing them, thinking, if they really loved me, they'd just know. But they're not psychic. They're just dating someone who never learned that it's safe to have needs. And the seventh pattern. If you grew up with constant criticism, you're now terrified of conflict. Any disagreement feels like proof that you're unlovable. So you avoid all conflict. You agree when you don't really agree. You suppress your resentment until you either explode or just leave the relationship. You can't have a healthy relationship without conflict, because conflict is how we negotiate our differences. But your childhood taught you that conflict equals rejection. So you choose emotional dishonesty to avoid confrontation, and the relationship slowly dies from all that unspoken resentment. Here's the brutal truth. You aren't choosing these patterns consciously. Your nervous system is choosing partners and behaviors that match your childhood wiring. You think you're picking someone different this time, but your trauma knows better. It's picking the same wound in a new package, because your brain is trying to master what it could uncontrol as a child. The only way out is awareness. When you recognize the pattern, you can interrupt it. When you understand that you're not broken, that you're just responding normally to abnormal childhood experiences, you can finally stop blaming yourself. When you see the trauma loop you're stuck in, you can choose differently. Your childhood will run your relationships until you make the unconscious conscious. Then, and only then, do you get a choice. Subscribe for more psychology that helps you see the patterns. And let me know in the comments, which pattern resonates with you?